Scott Grayson's back for another year of Grayson's Grades, and you'll hear him after every Eagles game. And right now at 97.3 ESPN.com, Grayson grades the Eagles' 53-man roster. You can check out Scott Grayson on Fox 29, and he's also the host of Props and Locks. And he joins us now, of course, as he does each and every Eagles week on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. Scott Grayson, Grayson's Grades, welcome back. How are you, pal?
Doing all right. Glad to have some football to talk about, Mike. Good to hear you again as well.
Yes, football Thursday night, the Eagles on Wednesday. The 53-man roster is in. Before we get to that, I would love to hear your assessment of the Jason Peters right guard. No, he's not going to go back to left tackle. He wants more money. Hey, he came down the hallway and decided he wanted to play left tackle, and I gave him a big old hug.
Yeah. I am not necessarily believing everything we're hearing about this. I think this is all crazy. I do believe the fact that he had asked for more money to make the move. I think he feels more comfortable over there for obvious reasons. He's played there his entire career. That's what his whole legacy has been. And I think you got to separate what's happened here versus what he has accomplished. And I am certainly going to criticize him for the way this has been handled throughout preseason camp. But you've got to respect what the guy has accomplished. And if anybody was going to say, hey, I want more money to do this, he probably has earned that right. However, anybody else on the team, if they're asked to move to a certain spot on the team, are not going to ask to rework their contract at the same time. And I think some of that was a little crazy. And these guys on the line will always tell you it is so important communication. You got to know the guy that you're playing next to. Now, he has done that. He has played next to Isaac Seumalo for years. Now it's going to be back over there, but there's some of the continuity of this offensive line that was missed throughout a week or 2 weeks of camp that they could have had with him over there. And quite frankly, whoever's going to be playing right guard, which at this point looks like it will be Matt Pryor, that was missed. And I think I don't believe that he just walked in and said, Coach, I'm ready. I think there was something that had to have been worked out and some begging and pleading that went on and gnashing of teeth. And ultimately, he's going to be there, but you've got to ask yourself, is 1 week of reps with that offensive line in that situation going to be the best case scenario for this team? And I would argue no.
All right, let's get Grayson's Grades. By the way, Grayson's Grades are brought to you by Cross County Connection, the region's transportation management association. They are dedicated to improving the quality of life in South Jersey through transportation solutions. Learn more about Cross County Connection online at www.driveless.com. All right, so you graded all the positions entering the year, so let's get Grayson's Grades on the quarterbacks. It's Wentz, Sudfeld, Hurts, and then an interesting story where you've got Josh McCown as a 41-year-old practice squatter.
Yeah, you got to love that. Look, I loved McCown. I loved what he did for this team. And there's one thing the Eagles do. It's that they read through every rule, and they will find a way to get creative. And I think that's what they did here with McCown. He's essentially going to be what this team, I think a lot of people wanted at the end of last season, was a coach, a guy that Wentz clearly respected and would listen to. And now that's basically what he's going to do without the title of coach. If it gets to the point where they need Josh McCown to play quarterback, then this season has clearly gone far south. So he is essentially going to be, I think, another set of eyes. He's going to stay in tune with his team. He's going to watch film. He's going to talk to the quarterback room. And I think he's essentially going to be a glorified coach. As far as the position group, I gave him a B. I think Wentz, obviously, is your franchise guy. I think he's been mislabeled, in my opinion, as an injury-prone guy. Yes, he has had injuries. They've happened late in the season. It's not like he misses full seasons. And I think I'm curious to see, bouncing off of what happened in the playoff game last season, to see what kind of way he's able to come forward here. Now, we talked about Jason Peters in the line. They were getting blown up in camp, and I think their rule number one has got to be to protect their quarterback every which way possible. And to that extent, I think Wentz needs to be prepared to get rid of the ball quickly. Behind him, Nate Sudfeld, we know what he is. He's a guy who could finish a game for you. I don't think you want to go ask him to go play multiple games and think you're going to win them all. And Jalen Hurts, I'm curious to see what they do with him and how they use him. And obviously, he was a surprise pick in the draft. So it's going to be interesting to watch that group and how they unfold.
How about the running back position? Miles Sanders, everybody's definitely intrigued for him to take the next big step. Boston Scott, I think you can utilize in certain packages to get him going. And Corey Clement seemed to be surprising this training camp because you didn't really know. And then, of course, they made the big splash to go out and get the player from Detroit.
Yeah, Jason Huntley is what you're talking about there. I think this running back group is pretty good. I'm looking forward to seeing. Look, Corey Clement, he had that great year the year they won the Super Bowl, and then kind of got hurt last year. So I think you're going to finally see Clement back to 100%, which should help. Boston Scott showed you he can be a guy who can come in the game and play a role, and I think that's what they're going to look for from him. Miles Sanders, I'm intrigued to see, and I'm really hoping and believing that the way they're talking that he's going to be fine to go here in week 1. His off season, he was all over social media, and you could just see the guy determined to come out and have 1,000-yard season. He had 800 yards last year, and that was without even being the guy for the whole season. So I think it's going to be interesting to watch what kind of year Miles Sanders has. He's going to have to be effective for some of the stuff I was talking about before, where this offensive line needs to kind of find its way and build some confidence again, and Wentz in them. And I think Miles Sanders is going to be a big key in how he runs, how he get the ball to him quickly out of the backfield. That's something he can do well, too, there. And I just think overall, I think this group as a whole, I gave him a B just because some of the unknowns with Clement and Boston Scott coming out of the gate and Miles Sanders with his injury day-to-day. But I think this group could work its way into an A for sure.
So a B for the quarterbacks, B for the running backs. The wide receivers, so interesting here. You gave them a C, but there's so many unknowns here.
There are, and I gave him a C largely from the injury side of things, as well as the unknowns. There's a lack of experience over there. Sure, Alshon Jeffrey, who will not be playing this week, and Deshaun Jackson have a ton of experience, but beyond them, there's just not a whole lot. Yes, you can certainly say Greg Ward did well at the end of last season. Perhaps there were some bright spots to see in J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, but inconsistent as well. And you need to see more consistency from both those guys coming down the stretch here. I was excited to see Jalen Reagor, and it sounds like more and more the word is he might be back in week 2. So that's a good thing as well. And what they did in the offseason, I like what they did to get speed because it was the easiest and biggest knock on that receiving group last year, is it just was no way to stretch the field. And it just made the defense's job so much easier to cover this offense. With speed on the field, I am intrigued to see how the Eagles operate. Now, in order to throw downfield, he's got to have time. We keep going back to that offensive line. But they've got speed. You got Deshaun Jackson healthy. You're going to get Jalen Reagor back, like I said, it looks like in week 2. And then John Hightower, he's had a pretty good camp. Quez Watkins is expected to perhaps help out. So I'm intrigued to see this group. Yes, I gave him a C largely because of the unknowns. But again, this group could easily work its way into a B and perhaps an A by midseason.
All right, let's stay with part of the receivers because this team uses a lot of 12, which is the tight ends. They only kept 2. You gave them an A, Ertz and Goddard.
Yeah, 2 of the best. I think 2 of the best tight ends in the league. Look, you lose Ertz, sure, you're not going to like it, but you're not going to sweat it either because Goddard has proven that he can be a really good, serviceable, perhaps even top-tier tight end down the line in this league. And perhaps if he got more chances, he would be that way. One thing Goddard does better than Ertz, I think, is able to get more yards after the catch. But Ertz certainly is Wentz's favorite receiver, and I think we're going to see more of that again. I'll be curious to see if any of this contract stuff that's playing out affects anything on the field. I believe that Ertz is a true professional and won't let that affect anything on the field. But I think, you're looking at 2 of the best tight ends here. And they will not go into the season or go very far into the season with only 2 tight ends. I got to believe they're scouring the waiver wire somewhere to find a 3rd tight end.
On to the offensive line. You gave them a C. I think you can win games with Jason Peters at left tackle and Matt Pryor at right guard. It's just what happens if somebody goes down from there that really concerns me.
Well, I'm still, in terms of Jason Peters, I talked about how great he's been in this league, and you certainly can't knock it. Hall of Famer should be. But, I mean, can you count how many times he played 4 quarters in the last couple of years? He always comes out of the game. He's unable to complete them. He tries to fight through, I think, sometimes, and then there's times I think he taps out. And I just don't know what Jason Peters I'm going to get this year. And for that alone, I think that is a big issue with this line. Look, he was only now moving over to left tackle again after being at right guard and kind of reluctant to come back and play that role, but then did it anyway. Look, Lane Johnson has missed some time in camp. You could argue he's a pro. He doesn't need all those reps from camp. He should be good to go. Jason Kelsey there is good. Isaac Seumalo. Brandon Brooks going down was just such a big blow. He has been great and a huge addition to this team the last couple of years. But I just think the biggest question mark starts and ends with Jason Peters. What are you going to get out of him? And if he can't finish a game, what does it do to the rest of the line and to the offense as a whole. So I think that offensive line's success or failure will begin and end with Jason Peters.
All right, Grayson's grades, first edition. He's grading the 53-man roster. C for the offensive line, A for the tight ends, C for the receivers, B running backs, B quarterbacks. Over to the defense now. Is it an improved defense? Well, the defensive line, which is where the Eagles really like to beef up, you gave them an A.
I think they finally have depth, and they're healthy for now, and that's been an issue in the past, has been remaining healthy. But you tell me Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, Javon Hargrave, and Derek Barnett as a front four, I'll take that. And Derek Barnett, when he's healthy, I think has shown that he can be a solid defensive end in this league. Now, the problem has been that he hasn't been able to stay healthy for very long. So week one, this is a great defensive line. Let's see where it is as we get to the end of September and into October. Hopefully those guys remain healthy. But then you look at the next, their backups, Vinnie Curry, Malik Jackson, Hassan Ridgeway, and Josh Sweat. I mean, there's 8 talented guys there that definitely, I think, provide depth and talent, and they will rotate in. You know Schwartz loves to do that because he wants these starters to be fresher towards the end of the game and the end of the season. So I think that defensive line, to me, is going to provide pressure. They're going to be solid, and that's where Schwartz really starts. His defense unfolds from there. He wants pressure. He wants things to get crazy in the backfield. And if that happens, it makes everybody else's job in coverage easier. So I think that's one thing that they labeled a priority this offseason. And I think, I like, obviously, by giving them an A, how they're going into the season with that defensive line.
There definitely is a lot of question marks surrounding the linebackers. You have Nate Gary, Duke Riley, TJ Edwards. You gave them a D.
Yeah, I give them a D just because, again, we're talking about a lack of experience. And experience is everything in this league. When you know somebody can play at a high level in the NFL, then you feel a lot more confident. Well, we just don't know how these guys can handle as many snaps as they're going to be asked to do. Sure, Nate Gary started 12 games last year. He started to show he can do it, and I'm curious to see if, in fact, he'll begin the season the same way. You're talking about some of these other guys, Duke Riley, you mentioned TJ Edwards, Alex Singleton. I just don't know what we're going to get out of them, and how will they work as a unit? Who's going to be the captain of that group? Who's going to lead all that? Who's going to make sure that they're all on the same page? Again, I think it's going to come down to a huge job by the defensive line to help make these guys' jobs easier to get settled in as a group and as a unit. And that's what I'm going to be looking for. They're a D right now, largely because of the lack of experience. But certainly when you have a lack of experience, there's a lot of room to grow. And if they grow, they can certainly become a much more solid unit on this defense. They don't need to be an A for this defense to be good. They just need to be hopefully a C or even a B, and I think this defense has a chance to be pretty decent.
Now, the defensive backfield has been a mess the last couple of years. A lot of that's because of injury, but the corners are all new. I mean, they got rid of Rasul Douglas. They got rid of Sidney Jones, and we can kind of, look a little deeper into that. But they really decided, hey, we're going to go with a whole new look. You got Slay, Maddox, who's back, but he hasn't played on the outside before. Roby Coleman, hearing great things about him. And then the wonky little move with LeBlanc. They cut him, and then they brought him back. But you like this group, it sounds like. You gave him a B.
Yeah, well, look, you just have one guy already you can put on an island and feel pretty confident about, Darius Slay. That was a huge move to get. And again, I talked about the formula for Jim Schwartz. He loves to be able to get pressure up front, cause havoc in the backfield, get in the quarterback's face, make him release it a little earlier. If you have a guy who can operate on an island, which I think is what Schwartz has been looking for and unable to find the past couple of years, it just makes things so much easier. From a safety standpoint, they don't have to worry about Slay's side as much. Now you're able to help out Avonte Maddox a little more. You're able to pay more attention to that. I just think that he finally has a guy on an island that can play out there that he feels confident in. And there's so many times we kept saying, well, why aren't they helping? Why aren't they helping? Schwartz is reluctant to help. So they're going to put a guy on an island. You've got him now there with Slay, who's proven he can do it and do it well. And I think that's going to make Avonte Maddox's job easier. It's going to make the safety's jobs easier as long as Slay lives up to what he's been. And I don't see any reason why, he won't do that. And therefore, I just think this group in general, you talked about Roby Coleman, Crevon LeBlanc. LeBlanc has experience in the system. I was a little surprised he was released and kind of thought that this is what they were doing, was going to bring him back, and it gave him an opportunity to likely rework a little bit of his deal a little bit and things like that. So I think this cornerback group, to me, I feel more confident in this group of defensive backs than I have, like you said, the last couple of years, which has been rough.
Last on the list is the safety position. Very interesting. You lose Malcolm Jenkins. Will Parks, who you brought in, is injured. Jalen Mills, we don't know what he's going to be. Wallace is intriguing, who you drafted, and everyone likes to tie in the Clemson ties to Brian Dawkins, but you clearly feel good about them. You gave them a B+.
Yeah, I just think, look, you're talking – I hated to see Malcolm Jenkins go. Mike knows this. We were sitting there on Radio Row with him and had a great conversation at the Super Bowl this past January. Hate to see Malcolm Jenkins go for what he was able to do and how flexible he was in this defense. Very versatile. Rodney McLeod, I've kind of enjoyed watching over the last few years. The question will be, how will he handle, being back there now without Malcolm? I think Rodney's capable. The Jalen Mills, this is where it all comes down to. He is a question mark. You don't know what you're going to get from there, but everything that we've been hearing has been relatively positive on Jalen Mills back there, and I just think he's more suited for that position. We saw him fail in coverage, a little late to react at times when he was expected to be one of those corners on an island. Well, now he's a guy providing a little bit of help, a little further back and able to watch things unfold, and I think that's going to suit him a lot better, to be able to read the defense, read the quarterback a little better, and have a little freedom to kind of float where he needs to help. And I'm looking forward. I'm kind of expecting him to be obviously more solid in that job. You talk about Kevon Wallace. I think he is expected to be, by midseason, certainly more experienced and really help play a role in this defense. I like what he brings to the table. You mentioned Dawkins. I think Wallace is going to be a good find, a good get in the draft, and somebody that should develop in that position as well. So right now, as long as they can stay healthy, I feel pretty good about those safeties.
Well, Scott Grayson's back for another year of Grayson's Grades. He'll be back on Monday's show to give us grades on the Eagles and Washington. Make sure you check that out. Plus, he'll be a part of the locker room on Sunday with Billy as they preview the Eagles and Washington football team. You can hear that game on 97.3 ESPN. You mentioned Malcolm Jenkins and the Super Bowl. I'm wondering, Scott, are we going to be at the Super Bowl this year? Do you think there will be people at the Super Bowl?
That is such a great question. I don't know. I don't know. It's crazy because you talk about the teams you guys mentioned at the beginning. Some are having fans in, some are not. You've seen what's going on with baseball. I think football is in a bit of its own bubble in the sense that these teams are together. When they travel, they're in and out of town pretty quickly, not like baseball who's there. It's going to depend on these football teams, first and foremost, whether or not there's even going to be a season come the Super Bowl. I like to think right now that we're trending towards the ability to get 16 full games in playoffs to get there. Whether or not fans or even media are a part of it, man, that's a tough call right now, Mike. I really hope it is because there's nothing like it down there. You and I have been through it many times.
And it's in Tampa this year, man. It's like my second hometown. I mean, I know Tampa like the back of my hand, buddy. We could have had that place on tilt, man. I'm yeah, absolutely. I mean, part of it might be whether or not they can do some of these Super Bowl festivities outdoors because things seem to be a little safer when you're outdoors. Well, I guess the fact that it's in Florida gives us hope because it seems like they're letting people do whatever the heck they want down there, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Fingers crossed.
Scott Grayson. By the way, Scott, give everybody the update on where they can find you on Fox 29. What are some of your assignments going to be for this season?
Yeah, I appreciate that, Mike. Yeah, we'll be doing. We're kicking off Props and Locks this Thursday night, simultaneously with the start of the NFL season. Actually, it'll air on Friday night, looking at the football season going ahead for sure, as well as the other sports. It's been such a crazy time. And then, I'm also on Sunday nights now with football season, doing Sports Sunday. So I'll be giving a wrap up on all the NFL action on Sunday nights as well. So it should be fun. I appreciate that. I look forward to being here with you guys and there with them. Plenty of ways you guys can find me.
Yep, and of course, Grace's Grades are back on Monday. We'll have them here, and you'll hear them on Sunday, getting you ready for the Eagles and Washington with Billy and the Sunday edition of The Locker Room. All right, Scott, appreciate it as always, pal.
Yeah, I appreciate it too, guys.
Scott Grayson, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline, and his grades are being brought to you this season by Cross County Connection, the region's transportation management association. Go to driveless.com for more.